Okay, so here's to hoping this video goes a little bit better than the first one. With section 4.4, we're solving two-step inequalities. So just like the one-step inequalities, we can solve them the same exact way we did with chapter 3 with two-step equations. The only thing we have to be careful of is the big switch that we worked on for 4.3. So don't forget the 4 main steps whenever we're solving equations, or in this case, inequalities. Remember first to get rid of any parentheses by distributing. That way you have all your terms laid out for you to work with. Then you're going to simplify by combining any other terms you have, and then you want to isolate the term with the variable. Now, if there's a variable on both sides, make sure that you get all your variables on one end and then get all your constants on the other. Once you have them separated, then you want to finally solve for the variable. So when looking at the first example, 5x minus 4 is greater than 11. After you put your balance bar in there, remember you're isolating the term with the variable here because there's nothing to distribute and there's nothing to simplify. So if it's 5x minus 4, I'm going to start by adding 4 to both sides. So I end up with 5x is greater than 15. And to finish solving, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So I end up with that x is greater than 3. Remember that you can easily check your solution by just plugging in a value of x that matches your inequality and making sure that it works. Next up, we have that b divided by negative 3 plus 4 is less than 13. So once I draw my balance bar, this b divided by negative 3 is now the term with the variable. So to undo that plus 4, I'm going to subtract 4 and end up with b divided by negative 3 is less than 9. So right here is exactly the kind of thing that we need to look out for. We have b divided by a negative 3. So when we go to undo, we are going to have to multiply by negative 3 to both sides. Remember, this multiplying by negative value is where we have our big switch, which means after we multiply that 9 by the negative 3, we're going to have to flip over that inequality. So now our answer is going to read that b is greater than negative 27. It's such a small but important step, so whatever you need to do to make sure that you remember that anytime you multiply and divide by a negative value that you switch to inequality, be sure you do so. Okay, so for these next 3, just like we did before, if you want to pause it and do them on your own, and then either just fast forward and check your answers or just go through them with me here, that's fine. So we have 6y minus 7 is greater than 5. So the 6y is the term with the variable, so that's the one that we're going to isolate first. So after we draw on our balance line here, we're going to add 7 to both sides. So we have 6y is greater than 12. Next up, it's 6 times y, so to undo that multiplication, we're going to divide both sides by 6, so we get that y is greater than 2. And that's our final answer. Okay, for part B, we got 4 minus 3d is greater than or equal to 19. So be careful, make sure you attach that subtraction with the 3d. So the first thing that we're doing is getting rid of that positive 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So we end up with negative 3d is greater than or equal to 15. Now it's negative 3 times d. So again, here's the big switch that we need to watch out for. So we're going to finish up by dividing both sides by negative 3. But remember, when we are dividing by that negative, we have to switch that inequality sign. So now that it says d is less than or equal to a negative 5. And again, as you're going through these, feel free to just check either mentally or off to the side of your paper. All right, for this last one, we got w divided by negative 4 plus 8 is greater than 9. So the w divided by negative 4 is our term with the variable. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 8 from both sides. So we have w divided by negative 4 is greater than 1. Now again here we have the divided by a negative value. So whenever we go to undo and multiply by negative 4, we have to do the big switch. So we'll end up with w is less than a negative 4 as opposed to greater than. So hopefully those 3 weren't too bad. When we look at this real life application, it says a contestant in a weight loss competition wants to lose an average of at least 8 pounds per month during a 5-month period. How many pounds must the contestant lose in the 5th month to meet the goal? Now this is a lot like the quiz average questions that we had in chapter 3. So if we're trying to figure out how much they need to lose in the 5th month, we're going to add up all the pounds that they've lost already. So the 12 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8. But we're also going to add in that missing month to figure out what's going to meet our goal. So if it's at least 8, then it has to be greater than or equal to 8. But remember, we are also doing the average of these values, so we need to divide this left side of the equation by 5. So to start, we're going to simplify this numerator by adding these first 4 values. Add those up, and we end up with 34 plus x over 5 is greater than or equal to 8. Now remember, numerator is its own special kind of group, so we can't dip into that just yet. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of that denominator. Multiply both sides by 5, we end up with 34 plus x is greater than or equal to 40. So now all we have left to do is just get rid of this 34 by subtracting it from both sides. And we end up with that x has to be greater than or equal to 6 pounds in order for this contestant to meet their goal. So this is all I got for you for section 4.4. So if you have any questions, especially on this last part, make sure you ask me before moving on to the next activity.